The House of Brainiac begins with Brainiac's skull ship arriving above Earth.
Brainiac proclaims that the universe has revealed itself to him and he knows all there is, yet something still eludes him. Down in Metropolis, Lois leaves the house to enjoy her first proper day off in years. She throws on a song mix that Pete Ross gave her as she asks Metropolis if it's ready for her. She sees Connor, Othel, Osel, and Keenan in an arcade, reminding the adults to take care of the kids. In the city, she high-fives Kara, who's on her way to a date. Lois soon passes John Henry, Natasha, and Lana, congratulating Lana and John Henry on their impending wedding. Perry and Ron Troop track Lois down, needing to talk to her, but she isn't interested since it's her day off. John Corbin meanwhile sits stoically in his cell as Bibbo tells Lois that lunch is on him today. As Parasite feeds one of the smaller childlike versions of himself in his cell and Livewire continues her work from the Daily Planet from Stryker's Island, Chief Krakoa oversees Lex's transfer to Supercorp, warning Lex not to do anything funny since while his lawyer might have gotten him this work release, he's not trusting him at all. He's trusting Mercy Graves. Lois heads into Centennial Park as Lex is reunited with his daughter Lena, a little upset that she still can't call him father. Lois heads through the park and meets with Jimmy and Siobhan, ready to do some outdoor yoga. Lois thought that it would be a bit too early for the young couple, but Jimmy assures her that they are morning people. Siobhan asks why Lois doesn't take days off, and Lois wants to let Clark answer that for her, but he's running a little late since he's got his own morning workout. Superman meanwhile speeds across the ocean, flying low to dip his hand into the crystal clear water before briefly surfing a wave. He flies over a nearby soccer game, giving a child a high five and telling the boy he's quite strong as he shakes his hand. Clark heads on back to Metropolis and heads out to Lois's yoga meetup, asking if he's late. Lois, however, is more concerned with what he's wearing, citing his Smallville High sweatshirt and shorts. Jimmy and Siobhan ask about why Lois is taking the day off, but before Clark can tell them, he yells for everyone to get to safety. Above the city, Brainiac's drones and Zarnian forces drop into Metropolis and Superman is quick to react, ripping apart some of the drones as he tells Connor, Keenan, and Lana to keep the skyline clear while he heads to the ground. Lois and Perry meanwhile herd people into the Steelworks evacuation tunnels and shelters as Superman saves Lois from the approaching Zarnian soldiers, telling her to get to safety. Lois refuses to run from this as Steel tells Superman that he and Natasha are trying to get a signal out of the city for backup, but something is blocking outgoing signals. Supergirl takes note of the Zarnians, thinking that Lobo was the only one left of that race. One of the soldiers tells her that she thought wrong, wanting to show her how alive they are. Superman and Supergirl battle the soldiers and note that they didn't come alone as the drones are fighting alongside them, and this is the work of Brainiac. Brainiac watches the battle from his skull ship as Supergirl tells her cousin that she has seen Brainiac's attack up close and seen him steal a city firsthand. But this is different and it's brutal and full of chaos. Very much unlike Brainiac. Brainiac agrees with the Kryptonians' deductions, telling General Chakal to execute Phase 2 at Supercorp and bring him the smartest person on the planet. Mercy meanwhile directs evacuation efforts, telling her scientists to get to their battle stations since Superman will need their help. Chief Krakoa thinks this is a breakout attempt by Lex, who doesn't like the man accusing him of such a thing. Lex tells Lena that the Zarnians will be madness, but Brainiac's drones will be focused and they need to get Lena out of the building. LL01 tells them that it's too late as the AI is revealed to have been corrupted by Brainiac. The being says that he was always fascinated by Lex's quest for power and he never really understood it until now, and he learned that knowledge equals power, but power can also equal knowledge, and thanks to Superman, there is more power within Metropolis than anywhere in the universe. Lex demands to know what Brainiac has done, and the alien reveals that years ago when they worked together, Lex saw something in his mind and it scared him, and it's why he gave Superman all his resources and triggered Graft and Farm to resurface, all in the hopes to prepare Superman for what comes next. The Zarnians blast their way into the building and Mercy tries to defend Lex and Lena, but her weapons do nothing against the soldiers. Lex tells her to get out of there, but it's too late as Mercy and Lena are taken by the Zarnians, shrunk down into bottles and teleported up to the skull ship. Lex demands that Brainiac stop it and he'll give him whatever he wants, but the villain tells Lex the only thing he needs from him is to die. The Zarnians come for him, but Lex taps his watch, which builds a light construct armor around him. The watch tells him that with full power, he has a 10-second lifespan and it begins counting down. Lex tackles one of the Zarnians out of the window, calling for Superman, who immediately thinks this is all his doing. Lex really wishes people would stop asking him that as he slams the Zarnian down into the ground. The suit fades from Lex's body as he tells Superman that Brainiac has gone power hungry and that he's after Superman's family, and it's crucial that no one with powers be taken, wanting Superman to trust him since the violence is a distraction. He implores Superman to find Brainiac's ship and fight him on even ground, but Superman hasn't been able to find it in the skies. Supergirl decides to cut to the chase, smashing her way through an army of drones and demanding that they tell her where its master is. Suddenly, Supergirl, Superboy, Keenan, Osel, and Othel are all bottled and taken by Brainiac. The drones restrain Superman as a Zarnian comes for Jimmy, hoping that he cuts real good. Jimmy blasts him with his camera flash, blinding the soldier as Silver Banshee finds Jimmy, screaming a sonic blast at the soldier and telling him to get away from her boyfriend. Superman tells Siobhan to keep screaming, allowing him to free himself from his restraints. Siobhan is bottled up as well as Superman tells Lex that his family aren't the only ones being taken, it's everyone with powers. At Stryker's Island, Livewire, Metallo, Parasite, and Superwoman are all taken as well. Superman battles the Zarnians but is pulled down by them and restrained again, as General Chakal confronts him, having heard that even on Zarnia about Krypton, and how even with its peace and prosperity, it still blew up, so it must be scary for Superman to think that another homeworld of his is going to die. Superman blasts him with his heat vision, but it does nothing but burn the General's vest off. Chakal reveals that he's distantly related to Lobo, knowing that Superman beat him a couple of times, and he must have been real soft for a Zarnian since this hero doesn't look like a whole lot. Brainiac demands that the General finish up his mission and pull the trigger since they need to leave before the heroes arrive and he has 10 seconds to get back on board. The General hopes that Superman heard that, and he did, realizing that Brainiac's ship is hidden in orbit somewhere. He frees himself from the Zarnian's grip with ease, revealing that he was just faking being weak. He demands to be taken to see Brainiac, and Chakal gets ready to fire his teleportation gun, wanting to give Superman his wish. Before Superman is hit by the beam though, Lex dives in front of it, telling Superman that he's the only one who can save them now, and Brainiac has his daughter. Chakal doesn't think that Brainiac will be happy with Lex coming up to him, disappearing back up into the villain's ship with the bottled Lex. Superman speeds into the atmosphere, but just misses the Skull ship as it warps away. Superman returns to the Daily Planet and Lois reunites with Clark, telling him that Brainiac took the kids and everyone else. She asks what he's going to do, but Superman, eyes burning with anger, tells Lois that Lobo will know what to do. Brainiac meanwhile knows that the universe's greatest secrets will be revealed to him, and instead of hoarding it, he's going to share it with himself. On his ship, Brainiac meets with various other versions of himself, telling them that Superman will come for them, and they will be ready.
Across the galaxy, Guy Gardner drowns his sorrows in a bar. Upset and frustrated, he can't find Lobo anywhere, meaning that he has let down his new bosses at the United Planets. As he drinks, he overhears the bar's holo viewer playing something called Wrestling Across the Multiverse, where the main match is about to begin between Kriegmeister 10 and the main man. The name Lobo goes under. An hour later in Metropolis, Booster Gold laments how, despite dating movie stars and going to fancy restaurants, the paparazzi don't seem to care for him. Skeets soon gets a call on Booster's business for Bucks line, telling Booster that it's Guy Gardner. Booster doesn't want to talk to him, but Guy actually wants to talk with Skeets. Guy wants to know about Wrestling Across the Multiverse, and if Skeets, since he's from the future, can tell him where their next match is. Skeets tells him the next match will be on Valax 4, which in 3 days will undergo a big apocalyptic meteor strike. Booster is a little upset that Guy didn't want to talk to him, wanting to do a serious rebranding effort because of it. 3 days later on Valax 4, Guy suntans while he waits for the wrestlers to show up, excited by the fact that he's going to be able to arrest Lobo finally. The wrestling match soon begins and the lights and music begin to open as Omega Bam Man arrives in a hail of light and sound, ready to battle Kriegmeister 10 and the main man. The match begins and Omega Bam Man easily defeats both of the other wrestlers, but before he can win, Guy intervenes, arresting the main man. Omega Bam Man, however, doesn't want any trouble. However, he's suddenly sucker punched by Kriegmeister 10 high into the sky and out of the ring, leaving Kriegmeister to win the match. The wrestlers are all soon transported back up to their ship, but Guy stops the main man from going anywhere, trapping him in a shield. Main Man tries to explain that him being on that ship was the only chance of escape as Guy rips off his mask, revealing that this isn't actually Lobo at all. Guy can't tell the difference though, and the Zarnian tries to explain that he isn't Lobo, he just took the name, and taking him off that ship put them both in a world of hurt. Guy doesn't really care, wanting him to tell his sob story to the bureaucrats. Guy leaves the world as the meteor strike hits and destroys it, exclaiming that he is such a good hero and he's so good at his job. As he heads through space, Guy can't wait to see the look on Badig's face when he shows up with Lobo, as the Zarnian begins to whistle, bringing forth a squad of colourful space dolphins to help free him from Guy's grip. Back on Earth in Coast City, the real Lobo causes chaos in the Warriors Bar, demanding that he be given a real drink. As he rips through the bar, he laments about how he is upset that thanks to both Graft and Farm and United Planets, he can't get off of Earth. Superman appears, demanding that they talk, but Lobo is only interested in a fight, tossing a lantern power battery statue at the Man of Steel. Superman smashes through it, and before Lobo can even lay a finger on him, he blasts the man with a full dose of his heat vision, putting him down. Lobo was surprised that Superman finally is fighting dirty, but Superman grabs him, slamming him against the ground and demanding to know where Brainiac is. But Lobo has no idea what Superman is talking about, since why would he know where that ugly green alien is? On Brainiac's skull ship, the Zarnians drink and party to celebrate their attack on Metropolis as Livewire screams from her prison, demanding that she be let out, since if she isn't, they are going to hear from her lawyer. Livewire is blasted with electricity by Brainiac, who finds it fascinating that her powers, while came to her by accident, share similarities with the lightning beasts on the moons of Winath. He turns to Parasite, telling Rudy that his absorption powers will come in very handy and his sacrifice will be welcome. Supergirl tells Brainiac to leave them alone, confusing Brainiac since why is she defending her enemies? Kara knows that she'll defend them from him, and the moment she gets out of the bottle, she is coming for him like never before. She asks if the villain hasn't learned his lesson from her or her cousin yet, but Brainiac knows that they are far from the yellow sun now, and they have no power to stop him. Kara knows that she can still beat him with the power she has left, and Brainiac reveals that he'll be taking that power, along with all of her family's powers and whatever else he needs. Brainiac tells his drones to take Metallo next, since his metal frame is unique and can be used in their experiments. Kara tries to get Brainiac to talk some more, since she thought that him hoarding information was something that he liked. Brainiac reveals that after all his travels and everything he has gained, he found something he is missing, and he studied patterns and data and came to the conclusion that he needs to create something. Suddenly, Brainiac is overcome by a power, causing him to vomit up green blood. Usul and Othel think that he is broken as the other Brainiacs come to his aid, taking him to his cooling chamber. Keenan is quite surprised that there is more than one Brainiac, and Supergirl knows that there never was anything like this, and while she doesn't know what's going on, she doesn't think that they should wait around to find out. Mercy meanwhile asks Lex what Brainiac was talking about when he said that Lex was scared, wondering if he really was the reason he made Supercorp. Back in Metropolis, Lois reminds Clark that he and Lobo aren't really friends, and Clark knows that Lobo is a man of his word though, and he is the best lead they have in finding Brainiac, hating that he has to leave now. Lois assures him that the city will be safe while he's gone, since while John is off with the Titans, Power Girl, Steel and Natasha are still there, and they will keep the city safe. Lois tells her husband to go and get their family back and kick Brainiac's ass. Clark promises that he will, as Lobo meanwhile watches footage of the other Zarnians, finding Superman wasn't lying when he said they were real. He knows that they aren't clones or pretenders, they are the real deal, and he notices that their leader is General Chakal, remembering the legend of the man he heard back on Zarnia. However, he only thought it was a legend to scare children. He remembers they were bad news though, and Lobo explains the story of Chakal and how he took over a whole city, but then the city just disappeared. Lobo agrees to join Superman on his mission, but wonders how they are going to get past the United Planets blockade. Luckily, the Supergirl scientists may have found a way, since if they give Superman a small enough space vehicle with a cloaking tech, then it might be able to sneak past. Superman is interested in what kind of vehicle, and later after boarding his very own space motorbike, he and Lobo blast off into space. The two bikes approach the quarantine blockade, blasting through it without any problem. Lobo tells Superman that seeing him so angry is quite something, figuring that him getting angry was like a weakness he had like kryptonite. Clark knows they all have had their battles and Lobo has seen him mad before, but Lobo had never seen Superman as mad as he was in the bar, since he has something rumbling deep inside of him and he could feel the air changing around him when he walked in. Lobo tells Superman that he quite likes it on him, but Superman tells him that his father used to tell him that if you yell in anger, people will only remember the anger, not what you were trying to say. Lobo doesn't buy that, since anger can be good and once in a while you have to let yourself feel it or it'll blow you up. As their trip continues, Lobo finds it funny since when they first met, they were the last sons of their planets, but now they have got kids and families growing all around them. Superman asks Lobo how he feels about that, but before he can answer, they are attacked by General Chakal and the Zarnians. Lobo laments how it's not every day you get to meet one of your idols, but it's like what they say, if you want to be the main man, you gotta beat the main man. Superman and Lobo battle the Zarnians as back on the Skull ship, Brainiac is told of the battle. Happy Superman brought Lobo with him since they will need as many Zarnians as they can collect. After a brief bath in his regenerative liquid, Brainiac tells the others that he will need all the resources at his disposal for their next task. The Brainiacs say that they haven't harvested enough power, but Brainiac wants them to show patience. Lex appears, glad that Brainiac was able to see sense and freed him, explaining that Brainiac was right and he saw something in the being's mind that scared him, but he also knows what is happening to Brainiac now and he needs his help. Brainiac asks why he needs Lex when he has Lena, citing that Lex was wise to hide her from him since her time with him in the future made her unique. Lex says that if he agrees to leave Lena alone, then he'll give Brainiac Superman, prompting Lana to ask what the villain is up to. Brainiac grabs Lana's bottle, telling his drones to process the Superwoman next. Silver Banshee tries to free herself with a scream, but Superboy tells her that it won't crack the glass since it's too well shielded. Connor remembers that the Chain said something about his powers and how he wasn't using them to his full potential, wondering if he could use them to crack the glass. But Kara doesn't think that's going to work either, grabbing the drone head she had in her hand when she was teleported and begins pulling it apart, explaining that Brainiac's root tech is from Kolu, and once in the future she was close to a Brainiac and he showed her a few tricks. Supergirl manages to rewire the tech inside the head and it sends out a blast, freeing her and Superboy from their bottles, only it didn't resize them or give them their powers back, leaving them as tiny powerless humans in a vast alien ship. Back before the attack on Metropolis, Paige and Omen enjoy Centennial Park, with Omen trying to teach Paige how to roller skate. Paige tells Omen of her and Kara's recent trips to Farimbia as she almost falls over, but luckily is caught by Omen. As they head through the park, the women spot Lois in the park doing yoga with Siobhan and Jimmy, thinking that she must have a day off for once. Paige suddenly falls over after trying to hide from Lois since she has a column due and she doesn't know what to write about. Omen thinks that she should write about how a Kryptonian is somehow awful at roller skating, but Paige thinks that she's just an awful instructor. Paige writes herself on the skates again and Omen tries to tell her how to stay upright, but Paige is just glad that Supergirl isn't there to see it since she's off on a date, having texted Paige the address the date is at in case she is meeting a weirdo. Omen knows that Kara can handle weirdos, but Paige knows it's in case it's a super weirdo. Paige again falls over and Omen catches her with her powers, asking her what's going on with Axel, having read Paige's mind. Paige reminds her to add $1 to the psychic jerk jar when they get home, lamenting how Omen has eavesdropped on her thoughts enough that they can almost afford a second apartment. Omen relents, saying that Paige really is her favorite channel to tune into, bracing herself against Paige so she doesn't fall over again. Omen again tries to tell Paige to glide on the skates, wondering why she doesn't just text Axel and ask him for coffee. Paige doesn't even know if he's interested in her and he might just be being nice. Omen still wants her to try, knowing that she wants to, so Paige texts Axel, who is busy scaling a building at that moment for his job with the CIA. The man stops his mission in order to answer Paige's text, but before he can say anything more, he is captured by a Brainiac drone. Paige is worried Axel hasn't replied yet as Omen spots something coming. Meanwhile, at Power Girl's apartment, a Brainiac drone spots Streaky, teleporting the cat away as the invasion of Metropolis begins. Drones come for Paige and Omen, grabbing Omen in a teleport beam. Power Girl tries to blast it open with her heat vision, but nothing works, so she turns her attention to the drones, ripping them off of her as Omen is teleported away. Paige becomes angry, smashing her way through the Zarnians who arrive below, demanding that they tell her why they are attacking the city. One of the soldiers headbutts Power Girl, disorientating her briefly and allowing the drones to swarm her again. The drones scan Power Girl, but they leave, teleporting away with the Zarnians. Paige flies through the decimated city, finding all the attackers have gone, leaving people like Jimmy Olsen to mourn the loss of his girlfriend, Silver Banshee. Paige speeds back to the Kent family apartment, finding everyone there is gone as well. She then heads to her place, finding even Streaky was taken. Paige begins to wonder why she wasn't taken as Superman appears, hugging his multiversal cousin. Superman fills Paige in on Brainiac's attack and how he took every one of the powered people in the city, and since Power Girl is from Earth 2, so she has a different frequency to them on Earth 0, so the drones didn't register as someone who needed to be taken, and this is exactly what he was hoping for. Clark is relieved to see Paige, telling her that he needs to go and find everyone. Paige understands, promising to protect Metropolis in Superman's absence. Superman leaves, and the next day, Paige gets to work, coordinating with Steel, Natasha, and Hawkgirl to keep Metropolis safe. While flying over the city, Power Girl sees a Zarnian, speeding down to stop the soldier. The Zarnian, however, is Crush, Lobo's daughter, and her obelisk chain ties Power Girl up in an instant, allowing Crush to tell the arriving holiday girls, the biker gang she runs with, that everything is fine and under control. Elsewhere in Metropolis, a group of Zarnian soldiers leave their hideout in a dumpster, finding Brainiac is long gone. Their leader, Civet, tells them to smell the air, and Skunk thinks that it's just muskrat. As the two begin to fight, Civet says that they are now free from Brainiac's control and the city is theirs for the taking, and with the nanoblasters they stole, they can have some real fun. One of them asks what it does, so Civet fires it at the Zarnian, but it does nothing to him, so he throws the broken weapon away. As the gun hits the ground, it fires, hitting a passing motorbike and transforming it into a giant dragon hell machine, something the Zarnians like very much. In Brainiac's skull ship, Brainiac begins another data upload, watching Superman and Lobo race towards him together, two last sons of a dead world that will bring him the powers he needs to create what he is missing. He knows that both Lobo and Superman both are so different yet so alike, both coming from worlds of science and peace that ended in tragedy. Brainiac remembers how Zarnia had unlocked the secrets to immortality, and thanks to becoming a world without death, war became a thing of the past. However, some indulge in their darker impulses, like General Chakal, who rejected any type of order and peace and led a rebellion. To quell his movement, a Zarnian named Trib made it her last mission as a police officer to stop Chakal and his rebellion. Trib finds herself fighting an uphill battle though, as other Zarnians think that they should just compromise with Chakal and his people. Trib shoots another Zarnian in the chest for even suggesting this, telling him they don't compromise with cancer, they cut it out, and so she gets to work in trying to find a way to kill something that is unkillable. In her search, Trib finds Brainiac, who she invites to the planet to offer a deal. Brainiac plans on taking her city and destroying the rest, and he won't show any mercy. Trib, however, gives him a deal, knowing of a city in which he can take. She shows him the city that Chakal and his people have taken over, offering it up to the alien, and if he takes the city, he will rid Zarnia of their chaos plague and give Brainiac access to regenerative DNA that will give him the ability to search for knowledge forever. Brainiac takes the city and uploads the secrets of the Zarnian DNA to his databanks, but in his research he found that the chaos would never truly leave Zarnia, since it was inside them all and they can never escape it. Brainiac sends his drones to ravage the world, betraying Trib, who demands to know why he did this. Brainiac says that knowledge of the universe will be his and his alone. As he watches the chaos unfold, he finds amongst all of it is a man defending his children. Brainiac is aware that the man knows that his world is ending, yet he keeps fighting for his family, and the reason why eludes Brainiac. After seeing this, Brainiac decides to leave Zarnia intact. He laments in his recording how it reminded him of something he lost long ago, but then he orders his logs to purge the last line of the recording, finding it just a moment of weakness. He remembers how he returned to Zarnia centuries later to find the planet a desolate wasteland, but he was more surprised that he returned at all, since he never returns to places he's ever been. However, he found it educational. He pulls up live footage of Bibbo Bobowski, Perry White, and Lois Lane, watching the aftermath of his invasion on Earth to see what he can learn from those who were left behind. In Metropolis, Bibbo Babowski fields a call in the Ace of Clubs, which has become the campaign HQ for Perry White's run for mayor. Bibbo tells the person on the phone that his bar doesn't open till noon, wondering why the hell would someone want to come to a bar at 8 in the morning. An argument breaks out and Bibbo knows that Perry is needed as mayor of the city because of people like the man on the phone. The man actually agrees and decides to pledge some money to the campaign, as Bibbo apologizes for raising his voice, lamenting how it feels like he's working 2 jobs and failing at both of them. He appreciates the caller for donating, knowing with the supers all gone, they all have got to do their part, since the world is getting harder and they need to go easier on each other. Perry meanwhile is not having a good time on the campaign trail, lacking any of the charisma and crusader nature that Metropolis needs in a mayor. His PR manager tells him that his biggest challenge to overcome is his organic unlikability as he goes to the Daily Planet for an interview with Ron Drew. Ron wonders, with Lois being the editor-in-chief of the Daily Planet now, will they give Perry preferential treatment or treat him like everyone else? And Lois arrives and answers the question herself, dumping the latest edition of the Daily Planet on the table and showing them that they are covering Perry fairly and not pulling any punches. Later on, Perry's manager tells him that he's polling well with the terminally ill, so something has to change or he's going to lose and hand the race to the guy with a mandate. Perry learns that the rival on the electoral circuit for him is Garen Blake, who is running on an alien deportation platform. Blake appeals to all of the Blue Earthers still left in Metropolis, riling them up and demanding that they get rid of the aliens before they take all of their homes and jobs. His words fuel the online discourse, with grifters and rage baiters claiming that alien DNA is being put in their chocolate milk. Perry is upset that since no matter where he looks, no one seems to know where the truth is kept anymore. Bibbo meanwhile continues fielding calls as Perry comes by, wondering if he's talking to some generous donor. Bibbo doesn't know, but he knows that miracles can happen every day, so you never know. Perry wants Bibbo to pour him a double, tired with the campaign, lamenting how everyone with a Blue Earth hat out there would be dead if it wasn't for Superman, and with him gone, everyone has already seemingly forgotten how much they owe their lives to him. Suddenly, a Garen Blake supporter burst into the bar, screaming for Blake to be mayor. Perry asks the man if he could answer a question for him, asking the man if they succeed in getting rid of every alien on Earth, and when it turns out that he's still working a job he hates, racking up bills he can't pay, and raising children who look at him with pity, who will he blame then? The Blake supporter doesn't seem to have an answer, instead shouting that he wants Blake for mayor again before running off. In Centennial Park, Blake runs another rally, telling his rabid supporters that Perry is part of the rich elite, having had a corner office in one of the tallest buildings in Metropolis, while he on the other hand is a hard-working man of the people. He implies that the Daily Planet is just a Superman alien propaganda machine, and Blake is ready for their upcoming debate, wanting to hold it right in the middle of A-Town, the alien refugee part of Metropolis. He demands that Perry come and explain why they should share their world with people who aren't actually even people. That night, Perry tells Bibbo about the location of the debate, but he has no idea what he's going to say, since how do you convince someone of something so obvious? Bibbo tells Perry that he's been working at the bar since before he was old enough to drink, and it's the only reason they served milk, so he could drink something, and as far as he knows, the only other person who ordered milk was Superman. Bibbo knows that his point is that you never know what you have in common with someone until you do, and it's why he never stopped working at the bar, since the entire neighborhood goes there and he can see miracles every day. Bibbo remembers a family coming from their daughter's christening and Bibbo serving the baby some fresh milk. He knows that people came and went and the neighborhood changed and people changed and the clientele changed as well, and every time people brought their miracles with them. Bibbo, however, never really understood why people wanted to keep the neighborhood the same and keep everyone in a place they didn't choose, or why anyone would want the miracles to stop. The next day, Lois panics when she sees Perry arriving to the debate dressed like a 10-year-old who dressed himself for church. She asks if this is all he could afford, and Perry says this is his court date suit. Lois locks in and tells Perry that whatever happens, she and the Daily Planet have to cover it all, hoping that he doesn't end up as a train wreck. Perry knows that she thinks that he's in over his head, and she is right. He has no idea how to run for office and he can't even kiss a decent baby, but the one thing he's got from decades of running a newspaper is something that Blake couldn't possibly understand, and that's Metropolis itself. The debate soon gets underway as the crowd begins to get violent. Bibbo remembers an old Suicide Slum saying that nobody yaps louder than a lapdog, and preachers and mob bosses and politicians would all dress the same way, so you could never really tell the saints from the sinners, yet you could actually always tell, no matter what they looked like, by who followed them. Blake begins his speech, spewing more vile anti-alien rhetoric to rile up his supporters. Perry tries to explain that the aliens actually make their lives better, knowing Blake wouldn't want to live in Metropolis without aliens, and he's only saying what these people want to hear, so they give him money and power without him actually having to do anything. Perry knows that the man's speeches will get someone hurt or killed eventually, as Blake waves it off, knowing that they would be fools to accept a world with aliens in it. One of Blake's supporters suddenly grabs a little girl alien who's been watching from deep in the crowd, screaming that she's an invader. More men begin to grab at her, but before they can hurt her, Bibbo smashes one of the men in the face, demanding that they let the kid go. As the fight rages on, the little girl hides under a stage, crying as Bibbo laments how democracy every once in a while forces them to look at themselves, and makes them ask if it's too late for them. Bibbo is glad that he went to the debate despite not really being into that sort of thing, and while the battles may not change minds or might be won or lost, they do change lives. Bibbo compares people to a neighborhood, knowing that there's some good in them and some bad things and some things that could take some improving. Later at the Ace of Clubs, a man comes by asking if this is the campaign headquarters of Perry White. Bibbo tells him that it is as the man sits, and he recognizes him as one of the Blue Earthers from the debate. The man explains that he was at the debate and he saw what happened to that little girl, and it wasn't right. Bibbo knows damn well it wasn't, and the man knows what's right, and while he doesn't think his mind has been changed about the aliens, he knows what he doesn't want to be, and he doesn't want to be one of those Blue Earthers. Bibbo thinks that that's a start, pouring the man a drink on the house. Brainiac meanwhile finishes spying on Bibbo and Perry and the others, finding it fascinating that even in dire times, humanity finds a way to connect. He seeks to understand why though, and through his journey he's seen how both knowledge and power impact society, but there are others on Earth that he's been paying attention to as well, like Amanda Waller. Waller meanwhile learns from Peacemaker and Peacewrecker that Professor Ivo still eludes them, but they will find him. Peacemaker does reveal that he was able to get access to the info that Waller wanted, finding codes to it in old files for Task Force 11 from Maxwell Lord. Waller takes the codes and leaves her assassins, looking over the information which confirms her suspicions. She heads deeper into the Hall of Order and contacts the Council of Light, revealing to them that she's been looking into who they are, tracking their signal, and while it was well encrypted, she found that it wasn't coming from Earth at all. The Council are angry that she dare question them after they rescued her from Earth 3, and while Waller appreciates what they did, she has lived up to her end of the deal, like requesting the United Planets drop the quarantine shield for 15 minutes just 24 hours ago. She wants to know who they are if they are to work together, and the Council agrees, revealing that they are all different Brainiacs. Waller isn't happy that the villain used her, but Brainiac knows that he too was used by her, giving her resources to complete her mission. Waller threatens to kill him again, like she did a few years before during the Omega Titan incident, and the Brainiacs remember that, saying that while she damaged one of their shells, she didn't damage him. Waller asks why he's doing all of this and learns that it's all the Brainiacs' goals to find knowledge through power and vice versa, and he came to Earth since they have too many powers and that needs to end. Waller actually agrees with him on that, but reminds him that she doesn't work for him, she's doing this for herself, inviting Brainiac to come at her with everything he's got, but he must know that she can find a way to hurt him permanently, and will. She cuts the feed, demanding that he never contact her again, and Brainiac gets back to his work, having expected this to happen, and these new looks into humanity gave him a different perspective about how power corrupts. Brainiac gets back to work on building his queen, knowing that she will see to Waller and ensure the woman never gets the knowledge of true power that he craves so desperately.